What is going on, New York Giant fans? Welcome back to another video. If you guys haven't already, hit that like button, comment, and subscribe. Turn on post notifications so you know when a live stream pops for your jobs. Appreciate y'all coming back. With that being said, we have a head coaching profile today. Patrick Graham, and then later on should be Leslie Frazier. I'm not doing Dan Quinn because he said he was going back to the Dallas Cowboys as their defensive coordinator. Obviously, a lot of stuff coming soon on the channel with the hiring of the coaching staff, the hiring of the head coach. I should have a podcast episode out at some point, an emergency podcast episode out when the new coach is hired. We'll talk about that coach. Obviously, I profiled him probably in one of these videos, unless it's some surprise candidate that nobody has ever heard of or whatever the case may be. But we'll go over possibly some of the stuff at that time. With that being said, we're going to go over Patrick Graham today, talk about his resume, what he did with the talent he had in the last 3 years, Miami, New York, and then we'll sum it up at the end, and I'll give you my thoughts overall on just Patrick Graham as a defensive coordinator and as a head coaching candidate. So he graduated from Yale in 2002 with a bachelor's degree in sociology, and he played college football there as a defensive lineman. But with that being said, he started his coaching career as a graduate assistant at Wagner. That is in Staten Island. I don't know if him and Lou Anarumo ever crossed paths, but I think Anarumo, he was at Wagner way earlier in his career than Patrick Graham was. With that being said, he moved to Richmond as the defensive line coach in 2004, Richmond, Virginia. Then he stayed there, but switched to the offensive side of the ball, 2005 to 2006. Then 2007, he went to my favorite college football team's organization, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, as a graduate assistant from 2007 to 2008. Then went to Toledo as the defensive line coach in 2009. Then got his big break, or I would say debut in the NFL life in 2009. Later on, became a coaching assistant with the New England Patriots. The next year, promoted to defensive assistant. I don't know why I stuttered there. Then 2011, the linebackers coach of the Patriots. That's the year the Giants beat Tom Brady in the Super Bowl once again. Then from 2012 to 2013 was the defensive line coach. Then 2014, 2015. Some of those years were with Brian Dable. I just want to put it out there. Also, Brian Flores was there, so some New England guys on the list of candidates for the New York Giants head coaching position. With that being said, after his tenure as the linebackers coach, he moved on to the New York Giants in his first of two tenures as the defensive line coach under Ben McAdoo, 2016, 2017. In 2018, had a brief stint with the Green Bay Packers, linebackers coach and run game coordinator. Blake Martinez and Patrick Graham established a relationship there. Then 2019 moved down to Miami. Different temperatures, different climates. With that being said, moved down to Miami in 2019 as a defensive coordinator under his pal, Brian Flores. Then the next year left that position to pursue another position, the assistant head coach position, along with defensive coordinator for the New York Giants under his pal, Joe Judge. He is a one-time Super Bowl champion in 2014 as the linebackers coach with the New England Patriots. So I'm going to go over the last 3 years with Patrick Graham. I'm going to make it short, sweet, to the point. Different players that were drafted, free agents a little bit, and once again, we'll talk about them at the end. Obviously, I have more insight on the New York Giants aspect because I'm a New York Giants fan and content creator than I do have the aspect and the overall thoughts on his Miami tenure. I can give you stats, I can give you a couple other things, but I'm going to give you mostly stuff for the New York Giants tenure. So, 2019, I'll give you the stats right away. His defense ranked 30th in total yards per game, 26th against the pass, 27th against the run, 32nd in points per game, 27th in turnover differential, 29th in turnovers, 11th in blitz percentage, and 32nd in pressure percentage, 12th in missed tackles, 32nd in sacks, and 13th in interceptions. I've said this so many times, and it's a fact. just because you blitz a lot doesn't mean you get to the quarterback a lot. And obviously, the Miami Dolphins in 2019 were very under-talented and could not get to the passer. They started a rebuild where at the beginning of the season, a lot of players wanted out. Minkah Fitzpatrick wanted out. Xavier Howard was growing angry with the organization. Actually, that would be the next year over a contract, but he's good with them right now, at least that I know of. Kenyon Drake was traded. A lot of players wanted out. Then at the end of the season, they had a couple of wins down the stretch, and they started progressing as a unit, progressing as a team, really buying into Brian Flores' system, his philosophy. They beat the New England Patriots at the end of the season in Miami. Actually, no, it wasn't in Miami. It was actually New England. So that was really surprising to some. But some leading guys on the stat spectrum in terms of who led in sacks, who led in interceptions, and who also were rookies under Patrick Graham and under Brian Flores on the defensive side of the ball. Taco Charlton was actually the leading sacker. He had 5 sacks, only 10 pressures, started 5 of the 10 games he appeared in. And I'm pretty sure that Patrick Graham had defensive play calling duties taken away from him. Now, I remember one specific play call. Now, I don't know if it was Flores or if it was Patrick Graham. It was 3rd and 18 against the Pittsburgh Steelers on Monday Night Football, and they blitzed on 3rd and 18, and Deontay Johnson had a wide-open touchdown. Obviously, that was probably infuriating for Dolphins fans, but with that being said, I don't know who it was. I just know that Brian Flores took over the play-calling duties later on. With that being said, there was a 3-way tie in terms of players who led in interceptions. You should know 3 names, one specifically because he played for the New York Giants this past season. I've mentioned it before in the Brian Flores video. Stephen Parker, Bobby McCain, and Nick Needham. Stephen Parker, in coverage, allowed 7 completions on 13 targets, a 53.8 completion percentage, a passer rating of 81.2, 2 touchdowns, 107 yards, and a total of 2 interceptions. With that being said, the next guy, Bobby McCain, he allowed 12 completions on 18 targets, 2 interceptions, obviously tying with Parker and Nick Needham. 66.7 completion percentage, 157 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a 94 passer rating. And then the rookie, Nick Needham, the undrafted rookie out of UTEP, he allowed 43 completions on 74 targets, 2 interceptions, 58.1 completion percentage, 646 yards, 8 touchdowns, and 101.7 passer rating. So not very good. 2 impactful rookies I will mention here that were on the defensive side of the ball. I thought they would progress later on. Now, Christian Wilkins, I don't know why I get the Clemson, Dexter Lawrence feeling, because I feel like Wilkins, yeah, just overall in his career, not just under Patrick Graham, I just feel like it's a good pick, but it's not number, I think it was 17 or number 16, because remember, the Dolphins had 1 or 2 draft picks. It was coming from 2018, so they had middle of pack draft picks, and they selected Christian Wilkins in the first round. I just don't think it was worth that, but I'm not going to make a comment on the Dolphins much further than that. Anyway, Christian Wilkins in his first year under Patrick Graham had 2 sacks, 56 tackles, 12 pressures, started 14 out of 16 games with 4 quarterback hits and 3 tackles for loss. And then Andrew Van Ginkel, the 5th round pick out of Wisconsin, he had a total of 1 sack, 4 tackles for loss, 4 quarterback hits, 15 tackles in total, started 1 out of the 6 games he appeared in, so mainly on special teams, I am guessing. With that being said, let's move to something I'm more knowledgeable about, the New York Giants. When he came here, I honestly was a little skeptical because I looked at the stats, the Miami defense, and I was like, we're really bringing this guy over? What's the reasoning? But honestly, it was a good thing. It was just in a bad situation. I'll explain that in a little bit. With that being said, comes to the New York Giants in 2020. 12th in total yards per game, 17th against the pass, 10th against the run, 9th in points per game, 18th in turnover differential, 16th in turnovers, 21st in blitz rate, 10th in pressure rate, 23rd most missed tackles, 12th in sacks, and 22nd in interceptions. There's a lot of guys that either flourished under him or their strengths were, I would say, lifted a little bit under Patrick Graham. Maybe that wasn't the real choice of words, but with that being said, they took guys like Kyler Fackrell, Isaac Yadam, guys who were journeymen, really didn't work out in their first, I would say, atmosphere. Didn't work out with their first team, and they played decently under Patrick Graham. Kyler Fackrell had 4 or 5 sacks on the season. Isaac Yadam, we all criticized him. I was one of his not bigger fans, but he played a solid corner to Ryan Lewis before that game against the Eagles, and put aside the game against the Cowboys. I thought he had some good appearances against the Rams and against the football team. James Bradbury, overall, he had a Pro Bowl selection, his best career year under Patrick Graham, really in the zone-oriented defense, had 3 interceptions, 15 games, missed 1 due to COVID. Blake Martinez, we mentioned his past relationship with Graham in 2018 with the Green Bay Packers. That was probably his best year, and then moved to 2020 where it was his best year. I believe he should have been a Pro Bowler, was a real reinforcer in that Giants running game with Dalvin Tomlinson and a couple other guys on that defensive line. Dalvin Tomlinson also had a good year as well. Unfortunately, the Giants let him go in free agency. And then one also on that Giants defensive line, Leonard Williams, 14 tackles for loss, 30 quarterback hits, 11 and a half sacks, 42 pressures, and a total of 12 games started in 16 games total. So he played all of the games in 2020. He was a big one. A lot of Giants fans were really skeptical of Leonard Williams, were skeptical of Dave Gettleman trading for him at the trade deadline 2019. Obviously, he got half a sack with the Giants under James Bettcher, and then everything started just I can't think of the word right now. I don't know why I can't, but everything just started blossoming with his defense in a totally different way under Patrick Graham, because James Bettcher, he was all about scheme, he was all about copying and pasting what Todd Bowles did before James Bettcher had the job and was promoted to defensive coordinator in Arizona, compared to Patrick Graham, where really in his first year with the Giants compared to his first year with the Dolphins, he wasn't blitzing as much, but they got to the quarterback 10th best pressure rate, and they were really middle of the pack in sacks. And one takeaway I definitely have with Patrick Graham, and I have it with another position despite the defense's regression in 2021, I have 2 really good takeaways about lack of talent, but Patrick Graham using it as an advantage rather than disadvantage. That being, there was a lot of pass rushers, quote, that were traded, that got injured, that just were not on the field for a couple of weeks. Marcus Golden was traded. Kyler Fackrell was put on IR. There was a couple other guys that were moving around. Nico Lalos was signed to the active roster. There was a couple other moving pieces, and still he found ways for the Giants to get to the quarterback and to hold up in the secondary. So that's something I got to commend Patrick Graham with. Though I have to say, and both can be true, he did play a lot of backup quarterbacks. I don't think they played Heineke. They played Alex Smith. They played Kyle Allen. They played Russell Wilson and Tom Brady, which they did well against. They played against Baker. They really didn't have a good game that game. They played against Kyler Murray. They really didn't have a good game that game either. Some other backup quarterbacks, Brandon Allen. Just a few names off the list that they really succeeded against. But once again, you cannot sit here and just not recognize the success and the improvement that the Giants made defensively from 2019 to 2020 because of Patrick Graham. And once again, it's not like they had all-star talent. Yes, they signed 2 free agents, re-signed another. But with that being said, signing Logan Ryan late, not really knowing what he was going to be, there's just a lot of moving pieces on that 2020 defense, and Patrick Graham made it work where the defense was the, identity of the New York Giants in 2020, where the offense was just horrible. The powerful side, for lack of better words, was the defense. With that being said, 2021, I'm going to take a sip real quickly. We'll mention the stats and go along. They were 21st in total yards per game, 15th against the pass, 25th against the run, 23rd in points per game, 26th in turnover differential, 14th in turnovers, 16th in blitz rate, 30th in pressure rate, 28th most missed tackles, 24th in sacks, and 13th in interceptions. So the defense really suffered. And obviously, stats are one way to look at things. I don't think it's all the way, because there's a lot of things that are taken out of context. There's a lot of things you have to really look at in terms of not just stats. The Rams game, that was a terrible game. Us Giant fans know that. With that being said, Daniel Jones, him not being totally 100%, whatever the case you want to make, him turning over the ball 4 times did not put the defense in a good position against one of the top offenses for the Los Angeles Rams with Matt Stafford and Cooper Kupp. And one thing I was upset with Patrick Graham about before this certain player got injured is Jabril Peppers was being used to cover tight ends, and obviously that's one of his strengths depending on who he covers, but he wasn't being used in the box a lot until later on when they faced the Panthers, and then he tore his ACL on a punt return, which obviously was not a good thing for the Giants. They had to trust a couple of other guys coming in, and it worked, but it didn't work. The Bears game, the Chargers game, there's a couple other games you could put in there and say, okay, well, the defense was put in a really bad position. I believe the Eagles game was really a microcosm of being put in a bad position because of the turnovers, because of the bad quarterback play. You know, we could sit here and say, well, the defense was bad. James Bradbury was getting beat on this play and this play, and he didn't have a good season. He is typically an up and down cornerback, and we'll see if he gets traded or cut next year. But with that being said, the offense did nothing to help. They barely scored touchdowns that meant anything. But I do want to mention a couple of things and a couple of positive notes from 2021 in the defensive unit. Azeez Ojulari. The Giants traded back to go get him. They traded back to go get Azeez Ojulari. They traded back with the Miami Dolphins, as a matter of fact, and he was just a stud. If you could get a number 1 edge rusher, which is something that the Giants completely missed in 2021 when Patrick Graham wanted to blitz that first game against the Broncos, and they were not getting the quarterback because they did not have a number 1 pass rusher. They really didn't assess that years prior, which obviously it fell in the 2021 defense's lap. But with that being said, he was an absolute stud. 8 sacks, 27 pressures, 49 tackles, 8 tackles for loss, and 13 quarterback hits. So he was really good, and he can only get better. But at the same time, if you get a number 1 edge rusher in here, he may go down to like 6.5 sacks, which really should not be a total, I would say, disappointment maybe. But we'll see what happens with Azeez Ojulari. It can only go up. It could also go down, as I just mentioned. But I was really impressed by his rookie season. Another rookie I was impressed by, and the Giants picked him up over the waiver wire, was Quincy Roche. I think he had a total of 2.5, 3 sacks, and he really made a good move on Colton Miller in that Raiders game to force the game-ending fumble. Giants pick it up. They win the game, and that game was really based on defense, running the football, stuff like that, because Giants' passing offense couldn't get it done. Other than an Evan Ingram touchdown, Devontae Booker running the football, and then the other side, Xavier McKinney with the pick 6 touchdown. And Xavier McKinney, another player that really flourished under him. I can't really recall any bad moments other than the first half of 2021 where he just wasn't playing consistently. And then you go to some of the games down the stretch, interceptions. And I say this about Xavier McKinney in that Rams game. He had 2 interceptions. It's not that they weren't good plays. They were good plays. And the Giants did have a lot of dropped interceptions this past season, but they didn't count for anything because the game was so over at that point. But with that being said, Xavier McKinney, 5 interceptions, allowed a 72.2 passer rating in coverage, 3 touchdowns, allowed 38 completions on 56 targets, a 67.9 completion percentage, 443 yards, 93 total tackles. He is a piece for the future, and I really hope Joe Schoen just gets another safety eventually to put alongside him, because we don't know if Peppers is coming back. Julian Love is a basic role player, and Logan Ryan, in my opinion, is washed. And I want to say something. I talked about the pass rushing unit with the lack of talent, how Patrick Graham tried making that work with Leonard Williams and a couple other guys when Marcus Golden was traded in 2020. I talked about that already. I want to talk about something else. I want to talk about the, I would say, my favorite position on this defense this past year, and probably the most powerful, because we all know the linebackers weren't great after Blake Martinez's ACL tear. But Bernard McKinney, he was okay. Jalen Smith, he was okay. I would bring him back another year if you want. My personal opinion. Reggie Ragland wasn't good. Tay Crowder really spent most of the year, I would say, as the linebacker one, so he wasn't that good. The pass rushing unit, the defensive line wasn't that great. Leonard Williams didn't really live up to his contract. Dalvin Tomlinson wasn't there. Danny Shelton was getting rolled over. So I want to point to the cornerback room. I felt overall, and a little bit of the safeties room, not too much of the safeties room. Obviously, Xavier McKinney, I'll put on that list. Jabril Peppers, not really. Logan Ryan, not really. Julian Love, I thought he had some good games. But I want to talk about that cornerback room, because there were times where Adoree Jackson would come out, and this happened specifically at the game I was at. Man, statistically and just on tape and seeing it live, Aaron Robinson, I am so excited to see him next year as possibly the corner two. He could play in the slot. He could play outside. He did allow one touchdown against the Chicago Bears, and that's kind of where the passer rating and the completion percentage and the yards went up. But with that being said, before that game, he had a really good stretch. Real physical corner, can play man coverage, also very good against the run. So that's very good of his abilities, very versatile. So Aaron Robinson, I'm very excited for him going into next year. Adoree Jackson, I was very skeptical of the signing when it happened, and I said, okay, well, listen, we'll see what happens this year. He was better than James Bradbury, with all due respect. Allowed 2 touchdowns, had 1 interception off Tom Brady. It was a deflection. 69 passer rating. That deserves a nice. 353 yards allowed. 52.1 completion percentage allowed. 38 completions on 73 targets. Total of 62 tackles. He did get injured. Missed a couple of games. COVID as well. But overall, I thought he played to his contract's worth. I know he earned a lot this past year that really took a hit on the Giants' cap. But with that being said, I thought he played to a level where it was better than James Bradbury. James Bradbury was really consistent at times. I thought Adoree Jackson was really the number 1 corner this past year. And another guy I want to talk about is a guy that's really not talked about, and maybe Patrick Graham just hid him from his cons and didn't really play much man coverage when Adoree Jackson and Aaron Robinson were out. But I'm going to talk about this guy, the undrafted rookie out of Albany, Jaron Williams. In coverage, allowed 8 completions on 21 targets. Started 2 games, 53 yards, 46.3 passer rating. You can't go wrong with that. And for the last couple of years, we've been complaining, oh, where's the corner depth? Where is it? We got to rely on this guy and this guy. This guy keeps getting injured. I really felt the cornerback depth was there this year. It's too bad because the Giants overall were not good as a team, and the up front units, the front 7, couldn't get it done and couldn't do their jobs, so it made it tougher on the secondary to try to hold up. But Jaron Williams was another guy I was impressed with. Steven Parker and J.R. Reed as part of the safeties room. I thought I was impressed by them. And they're not, oh my God, third-round picks. They're not star corners. They're undrafted free agents. They're unrestricted free agents. They're journeymen. One coming from the Jaguars and the Rams, one coming from the Cowboys. I thought they were solid role players for injured New York Giants defenders when they needed to fill their roles. So overall on Patrick Graham, I'm going to take a sip real quickly and just end off this video. I do believe Patrick Graham has the physique to become a head coach in the NFL one day. Will it happen? I don't know. He's very young, at least compared to some of these other coaches across the NFL. The NFL is getting younger in terms of head coaches. I know that the Broncos just hired Nathaniel Hackett, a couple other hirings. Matt Eberflus was hired by the Bears. With that being said, in terms of his defense, I thought they overperformed in 2020. They underachieved a little bit in 2021. Some of that I thought was his fault, but mostly on the talent wise, mostly on player execution. Kind of like the offensive side of the ball in a way. But his unit definitely did better than Jason Garrett and Freddie Kitchens' unit overall in 2021. Do I necessarily want him as the New York Giants' next head coach? Personally, no, because I don't think he's ready. That's my opinion. If he's the next New York Giants head coach, which I think is a long shot, will I be a little confused? Will I be surprised? Yes, I will be. But if it happens to be a good thing, I'll cheer for him. I'll cheer for him either way. If it's a bad move and he's a terrible head coach, then obviously we will know at the time. But if the Giants keep him with the new head coach as defensive coordinator, whether it's not Patrick Graham, Brian Flores, Leslie Frazier, Brian Dable, some of these other guys that come over and maybe they're the head coach. If the Giants would like to keep Patrick Graham, I won't be mad in terms of him staying as the defensive coordinator, because I thought with better talent, he could really blitz the quarterback. He could really be physical, play man coverage, do all that stuff. But if he goes somewhere else, takes the Steelers' job with slightly better talent, I don't think it's as talented as people would say, because they have a lot of free agents this upcoming offseason. If he takes another job somewhere else that a defensive coordinator spot is open, shout outs to him. I think he's deserved, another spot where hopefully his defenses will be a lot more recognized and a lot more talented. But if he's the next Giants head coach, I'll be surprised. I would probably put him number 3, number 4 on my list of head coaching candidates out of 5. So, with that being said, guys, like, comment, and subscribe. Turn on post notifications so you know when a live stream pops for your jobs. Appreciate y'all coming back. Leave a comment. Obviously, give up. I can't talk today. Give some feedback in the comments below. I'm trying to get some feedback here of what I can include in some of these head coaching profiles, what I could do for the next time, because who knows when the Giants will hire a head coach again, who knows when they'll hire a GM again, and who knows when they'll get their offensive coordinator and who the candidates will be. So I just want to be prepared for that situation. With that being said, guys, peace out. See you later. Stay cool and go Giants.